welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton, and today we're going to talk about gardening, master gardening in particular, and some tips for fall. My guest is Les Orgain. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk gardening. A lot of people feel like it's a daunting task. Like if you think about growing a whole lot of stuff all at one time and getting into it, it's big. But you got in kind of gradually. You started with containers, right? That's manageable.
Yes, it's manageable both from the aspect of growing the fruit or vegetable you're trying to grow, and from the weeding, which is probably
yes,
everybody's
the
bane of gardening. It's just easier to do.
Now, why did you do it? Have you always been gardening? You came from a gardening family. You have a green thumb. It all came natural?
Just an interest that grew over time. Started with the containers, and after I retired, I opted to research a little bit more. My container pot collection was growing, and my wife got me interested in the Master Gardening program, and it branched my interests out where I'm growing all kinds of things now.
But your interest started with your tummy, with your palate, with wanting to eat better tomatoes, better peppers, right?
Absolutely.
And you were in the military still at the time?
Yes, I was. That's why it was container gardening. It was easier to do. It's an easy setup. But the homegrown tomatoes and homegrown green peppers, that was my forte at the time, were the best tasting tomatoes and peppers that you could find in the city, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
But it tastes much better than what you buy at the general grocery store, comparable to a farmer's market.
Well, it is a farmer's market. It's just you're not selling them here. You're growing them.
A true farmer's market is really what I look for in a true farmer's market is a local farmer that's growing not on a mass production scale.
Right, where they pull up the back of the truck. And,
right.
Yeah, that's so nice. Well, how did your interest then get from, growing your own tomatoes and peppers to learning more things and volunteering? Because Master Gardener, you get a great education. You learn a lot, but they make you give back.
Yes, they do. It was about a 3-month program, twice a week. We had classes for 3 hours each day, and I believe it was, I forget the exact number of hours that we did for the training, but there was hands-on classroom, and then they're asking for 40 hours of return time to volunteer in the community. And here in Hampton, Bluebird Gap Farm we have an arboretum section that the city's allowed us to propagate plants, and we show the residents what can be grown in this area.
And that's so important. I mean, you've lived all over the world. There are things you can't grow here that you could grow in California or Greece or, some of the other places.
I've never given myself to try and grow something that you can't. I think we could probably get something started here, but keeping it live might be the problem.
Unless you have a greenhouse or some other really special.
Right.
Yeah. So you guys advise people on how to make the most of the growing situations here.
Absolutely. That's if you have a question about, let's say it's tomatoes, and you're having your leaves are falling off, or they're turning brown, or you're getting black rot on the bottom of the tomato.
Yep.
And if you don't know what that is, you could call the local office here in Hampton, the VCE office, and contact the Master Gardener, and we can provide you the advice for that. And additionally, we have the Pest Management Guide, which is put out by Virginia Tech for the state. We will actually give you scientific-based evidence, stuff that's been proven to work. We're not giving you the Tom's tips for better tomatoes. We're giving you stuff that's been proven to be done in the state of Virginia, works in the state of Virginia.
Yeah, because you have test gardens. I mean, you test different products, different plants, different conditions, and have a decision about what Virginia Tech recommends.
Yes, Virginia Tech has the test farms. There's actually a facility over Virginia Beach, the ARUC facility.
It's really cool.
It's an agricultural research center, and that's one of the things they do. They have a grass facility over there where they test the best turf types of grass for our area. And I believe last year the gentleman that runs that section, I attended a lecture, and he said He's got 480 plus types of grass over there he's testing for the area. And it's not just like a 3-month test. They're doing this for years to see what works best in the area.
All right, let's talk about lawns, because a lot of people really care about having that green lawn. It is a huge importance for people. It is fall. People are going to, there's some things you should do in the fall. But here we're in this weird zone where people have, I don't quite know the difference, but there's the cool season and the warm season, and you do completely different things at different times, right?
Absolutely. We're in what's called the transition zone. We're not really the southern states, and we're not really the northern states. We're kind of can opt for either selection of grass. The warm season grasses are the grasses that thrive in the summer, the Bermuda, Zoya, centipede grasses, those type of grasses.
And they really come on bigger, I think, more lately. No?
A lot of people are going to them because they're lower maintenance. They don't grow as fast. They don't grow as high. They have a tendency to spread out.
With the runners.
But there's actually less maintenance, require less water. So from a environmental standpoint, people are looking at it from that aspect and going with that grass. Now, statistically, though, the fescue grass is the most popular grass in Virginia.
Yes. And even in this, is it in this area too? I mean,
yes, in this area too, and that's considered a cool season grass.
Okay.
And in the summertime, like right now, it's going under some stress, and it's kind of going dormant, and you'll see some little brown patches. Nothing wrong with the grass. It's just hot, and it's trying to survive, so it's going dormant. Now, the application of those for fertilizer is totally different, because the growing season for the warm grass is really in the warm season. So your Bermudas and Zoyas, they're being fertilized now or in the last couple months. Now coming into the fall, September, October, November are the times we should be fertilizing the fescue grasses, the Kentucky bluegrasses. And the reason being because that's when they're doing the most growth prior to really shutting down for the winter.
Right.
They don't totally go dormant like a warm season grass, but this is their best growth period where you're going to get the root development that you want to survive next year's heat. If you've ever
build that base.
Yeah, if you've ever seeded the lawn and you've seeded in the spring, well, the grass hasn't had a chance to develop those roots, so it started. Your grass looks great, but the root system isn't there. That heat comes along and it just beats the grass down, and you're thinking, oh, that was bad grass seed. No, we just planted it at the wrong time. If you'd planted in September-ish, the end of summer, coming in the fall, you would have had all that root development that started. The cold season where it goes the growth period will slow down, and then back in the spring, and it'll develop better roots and is more healthy to survive the.
So let me ask you a dumb question. If I'm a homeowner who's just bought a house, I don't know what grass is out there. It's not even grass. It might be kind of weedy. It's kind of green. No, how do you go and figure out, and how do you develop that plan for an existing lawn that you inherited from whoever owned the home last?
My advice and Tech's advice is, first thing is test your soil.
They always say that.
You got to know what you're working with.
Okay, so how do we test our soil?
You can go to the VCE office and pick up a sample, or come by. That's at 1919 Commerce Drive over by
over in the Coliseum
the Bass
area.
Pro. Yeah, that general area. It's the other side of 64.
Hotels. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And they're free. The sample kits are free.
Right.
I believe it's $10
It's not much.
that it costs to send off for the sample.
Okay.
Now, just to give you an example, when I did my yard finally, after years before I became the master gardener, I followed the company's recommendation according to what was on their bag.
Yep. A lot of us do.
A lot of us do that. And I treated my front yard and my backyard identical. And when I did my soil samples after I became a master gardener, I was a little bit more educated. My front yard has no trees, my backyard does. Well, I opted for two different soil tests, one for the front yard, one for the back. They were both treated the same way with the fertilizer product I put down. but my front yard wound up being a healthy soil. My backyard was, I think it was 500 pounds deficient in lime. And, which is a huge difference between the yards, considering they were treated the same way.
Yeah.
But with the trees, the dropping from the leaves, the different exposure to sun, both yards were mulched the same with when I mowed. So if they're vastly different, I would definitely recommend splitting your soil samples so that you get a better understanding of what the soil structure is in each.
That is a good real life example. I am now motivated.
And the soil samples
are guessing,
Absolutely. The soil samples they're easy to do. It's take a spade and you're basically taking a sample throughout your yard, mixing it together, then sending it off to tech for the chemical analysis.
And they will tell you what it's deficient in and how to correct those deficiencies.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And lime is one, depending on how much lime you need.
I've heard that's big in Hampton Roads. That tends to be.
In the state of Virginia, we tend to have an acidic soil, and lime raises the pH to the neutral, what you want for your grass, because it grows better. It makes the nutrients available to the grass by having a neutral pH.
And helping it grow better also has these environmental benefits where you're not having to put as much into it later. You're not having as much runoff. You get the right amount for what your soil needs, not too much or too little.
Absolutely. Going again by the fertilizer recommendations on the bag, I was putting down 3 to 4 bags of fertilizer a year. Going by the soil analysis, I put down 1 bag of fertilizer last year just for the nitrogen content alone.
So you're saving money.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You've got that soil test money paid for 6 times, so you're saving money and you're helping the environment. Because what the soil can't absorb is going to end up in the bay.
It becomes
rivers
runoff,
and the bay
absolutely.
and the creek right now.
Yep.
That is fascinating. Okay, so more tips for fall if we have the
fescue. If you have a fescue.
Okay, do that better than the cold warmth. That throws me. Okay, so if you have the fescue, you want to be doing what?
First off, make sure your mower blade is sharp. Dull mower blade is tearing the grass instead of cutting the grass, which can promote disease in your lawn. So at least twice a year you should be, minimum twice a year sharpening your blade. Most people will put it away and 3 years from now, oh yeah, maybe I should sharpen my blade.
Yeah, exactly. When the engine needs a tune-up is when the blade gets sharpened.
Ma'am.
Okay, sorry.
Mower height. Fescue is a grass that thrives in the 2 to 3 inch range.
Okay.
Also, when you're mowing, don't mow more than a third of the grass. So if you're letting your grass get 6 feet high or 6 inches high, and you're cutting it to 2 inches, well, think of it this way: the grass is using photosynthesis to feed itself. If you're at 6 inches, and you're taking off 2/3 of its food production. It's a shock to the grass. Aeration is also a good key. Believe it or not, plants do need air in the root system to be healthy. Over time, as you're walking on that grass, you're compacting it, you're pushing it together. Less air is mixed in that soil. So running an aerator and taking a couple passes every couple of years is a great way to keep the healthy lawn.
Okay.
Just the little plugs of grass that looks like goose droppings. Just leave them.
Leave them. And that's the other thing too, is make sure when you're cutting your grass, unless you're doing too much at one time, that you do use the mulching blade or mulching attachment or whatever and leave it, because that's saving you money. That's less fertilizer you have to buy, right?
Absolutely. There's some studies that indicate, I said September, October, November should be your fertilizing times for the fescue. Well, there's some studies that indicate if you mulch through the year, you can eliminate one of those fertilizing. And we're not talking, when I'm saying fertilizer, I'm not talking a bag of fertilizer. I'm talking like 0.7 pounds per 1,000 square feet, which is not very much nitrogen. Is the
and that's really one of the big issues in the Bay, is that we have all dumped way too much nitrogen on our lawns, on our farms, and everything else. And while nitrogen is good, it's choking things out.
It's good for the plants. Well, that's what happens. It gets into the Bay. It promotes algae growth.
Algae growth, yeah.
Which is a plant, but that in turn chokes the
Right.
aquatic life, which is a bad thing.
Okay.
Yeah, especially if you like blue crabs. I'm not a crab person myself, but if you love blue crabs, minimize the amount of nitrogen you're putting in on your lawn.
Okay, got it. So you guys, the Master Gardeners, have a sale coming up. You grow some of your own plants, partly in Bluebird Gap, partly I'm guessing some folks do it at home and
Absolutely.
propagate what they have. And it's how you guys make money, but it also helps us because you know what plants work in our environment, in our lawns. I mean, you still have to know, people have to know their sun conditions and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. We will be selling plants that grow in our area. A lot of the stuff we propagate are samples taken from plants that are actually at Bluebird Gap Farm in the Arboretum area. We have a small greenhouse there that we propagate. But with that, with the money we raise from that, that's what we use for our operating costs, our outreach programs to the schools, our outreach programs to the community even. We'll go to certain events and provide tables for information there. We have a Go Green Expo in conjunction with, we're helping Newport News out, where we'll be providing a table there for herbs and
That's my favorite. That's where I started kind of, was growing the herbs, growing the, cherry tomatoes, because they're easier to grow than the full-size tomatoes, and you get constant.
You get a ton of them.
But kale, I have kept myself in smoothies all spring because it hasn't bolted yet. I'm doing a great job. It's grown really well. And you just go out in the morning and pick it, throw it in the blender with things that taste, a little better. But it's great.
Yep, superfood you're putting in your smoothie. Hopefully,
I grow blueberries too, but the birds get them. There's no way
netting.
they will ever get ripe because they're gone. Yeah, that's too hard. Okay, so you guys have this sale coming up every fall at Bluebird Gap Farm, and then again every spring. And I hear your prices are great. Give us some indications of what you'll be selling and what we have to pay.
The hibiscus, hydrangeas.
And this is the native hibiscus, not the seasonal one, right? The one that
These are the hardy hibiscus.
The hardy hibiscus,
yes.
yeah.
They're all
the big. I mean, they
get
look
the dinner
like
plate size
tropicals.
heads.
Yeah,
yes.
but they come back.
And that's the thing with hibiscus. You got to make sure you get a hardy hibiscus for this area.
There aren't very many. But
or you'll be digging it up every fall, putting it in the garage. Because if you leave a non-hardy hibiscus out, they will die, and you'll be back at square one next year. But the plant sale is the 17th of September.
Okay.
It will be from 9 to 2.
And you got to get there early, I hear. You will sell out.
If there's something specific you want and it's a high demand item, absolutely. It just surprised me my first plant sale I went to 2 years ago when I became a master gardener. There was literally 80 people outside the gate already before Bluebird Gap Farm opened up the gate to get in. And we publish on our...
an experimental gardener and you just want to come pick up a few things, you'll find something.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
On our website, hamptonmastergardeners.org, we'll have a list just prior to the plant sale of what's for sale.
Oh.
So that way, if you're looking for something specific, you'll know it's there. And we also provide it in a map format, so you'll know generally pretty much the location where it's going to be located in the Arboretum.
Okay, and when we're there, though, you guys are there, so if it's not crazy and crowded, you'll be able to give us some tips for whatever it is we're buying and where it works. And there's a lot of personal attention that you guys give folks.
If you have any questions, by no means are we the definite voice on plant care, but we do know where to get the right information if you're asking about a plant we don't know about. Okay. And we have so many different levels of expertise in there. Mine, fortunately, I'm kind of getting into the fruits and berry section, but nice. I have a good lawn background and a few other minor things. But there's other people with totally different experience.
Herbs, flowers, bushes, all kinds of things. I think people forget all of the levels of growing. You might be interested in daylilies, but there's other stuff, So
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. Okay, well, I could keep talking to you, but we've gone on for a really long time, so I'm just going to say, if you have more questions, want to hear more from Les, talk to him, talk to the other master gardeners, talk to the extension agent. There's a wealth of resources, and we appreciate Les and the other master gardeners giving of their time to help us be better gardeners, better stewards of the environment, and eat better tomatoes. Because really, that's what life is about, right? Thank you so much for watching.